Obviously, Dale Gatefold 33 back with another video. This is a thread video. I think it's a thread anyway. Certainly I've seen two videos at least. I think there's two videos I've seen. Who are people showing their 10 favourite new releases of 2023 so far, now that we are halfway through the year. So I've seen Mike PC31, the Vinyl Policeman, do his. And then I've seen Mike Vinyl Spiral do his, and so I thought I would have a go. And like Mike Vinyl Spiral did, so I think Mike Vinyl Spiral had one album that featured in Mike PC31's top 10, and he showed that first. I happen to have one album that features in Mike Vinyl Spiral's top 10, so I will continue the motion, and then and I'm actually going to show 11. But there's a reason for that. Yeah, well, I'm actually going to show 13, but 11. But that's really 10. Okay, so start off with the one that Mike Vinyl Spiral showed, and that is the new album. They're all the new albums. The latest album by Craving called Standers. So they're sort of an artist out of the north of England, does very atmospheric, ambient, synth, drone, dark, yeah, kind of ambient kraut type of music, right, instrumental, just the sort of stuff I love. So this is a double album, and I pre-ordered this. So I was lucky enough, Pete Sounds from the West Coast sent me a spare copy he had of a Craven Faults album, and really enjoyed it. And I wasn't aware of them, so although I'm really into this stuff, people who follow me know that I'm into all this kind of type of music, I hadn't heard of them, so now they are firmly on my radar. And so when this was announced, I pre-ordered it. I also bought the 3 CD clamshell version of it that has the album itself, some live material on CD 2, and something called Enclosures, more music on CD 3. And in fact, pre-ordering this off of the Leaf label Bandcamp site, there was always a bonus track that came with this on the download, and that was a 1 hour 15-minute track. So certainly plenty of music to get your teeth into, or your ears into, with that Standards release. So yeah, so enjoying that, but yeah, still got to absorb it fully. Okay, another kind of big chunk of music. This is one album that I'm highlighting here, although it's actually 3 albums. So Camp of Wolves and Planetar is the album, but it was released as a 3 album box. What you can call it, a box. It's got a slip cover, a booklet, a little booklet in here, and 3 albums by and I wasn't paying attention, so I think I've got a Camp of Wolves CD, I've got a Camp of Wolves cassette, and so I've been following them, and I saw that this was being released, and then I saw there was a 3 album version, and I assumed it was going to be 3 albums of Camp of Wolves, but actually it's 3 albums by 3 different artists on the Sub Exotic label that released this, and but they're themed because they all linked to a film of space pictures, material from the Hubble telescope and all sorts of stuff that these 3 albums kind of narrate, orchestrate, whatever you want to call it, this hour-long documentary, excerpts from these 3 artists. So the artists are Camp of Wolves, which was the main reason for me doing the purchase. I was after their album Planetar, which is the one that's featuring in my top 10 officially, plus Giants of Discovery, who do an equally fantastic, so they could have been in as well, album, and called And It's Goodnight from the Human Race. And then Letters from Mouse, who do some Swithin Storm. That's good, but not quite up to the other 2. So Some fantastic music in this. Again, something to absorb. I haven't seen the film. I don't know if I can access the film because I bought this. The booklet talks about the film and how it was put together, but I haven't actually seen the film, so I might seek that out. But that's another chunk of spacey synth ambient instrumental music. So okay, so that's two technically. So now two more that I'm going to count as one. So this firstly is this album by Josie and Clark called Onliness. Onliness, Songs of Solitude and Singularity. So Josie and Clark, for those of you who followed me, I'm a big fan, or was a big fan, of Josie and Clark and Ben Walker, who performed as a duo, Josie and writing the songs and singing, Ben playing the music, particularly guitar, acoustic and electric guitars. They no longer perform together. They're both solo artists, and this album is the latest from Josiane. I pre-ordered it. I think there were 120 released on her own Corduroy Punk album. It's on a sort of grey and black marble Corduroy Punk. It came with a 7-inch single with 2 extra tracks on, art print, you know, lyric insert, all of that. So solo, self-released on Corduroy Punk Records, which is her label. Yeah. So what this is, so I was tempted not to include this because this is Josiane doing a bit of a kind of Taylor Swift, where I think she's reclaimed from the different labels that her music's gone out on over the years. She's reclaimed you know, the rights or whatever, or some of her songs, or just kind of revisited some of the songs she says that perhaps got, you know, songs that she has a lot of affection for, but they've kind of just got lost and buried in certain albums. And so she's gone back, and this is all re-recording. She's re-recorded. Primarily it's her with acoustic and electric guitars, and then some guests on, you know, things like violin, cello, that kind of stuff. So very kind of acoustic folk, beautiful. A lot of her stuff is quite dark, and I like that. So that is Josiane Clark and Onliness. And then the kind of other half of Ben Walker has also released an album this year, so I'm counting this as one. Ben Walker has released an album called Banish Air from Air. So Ben plays guitars, different guitars, acoustic, electric guitars. So this is a guitar album. He doesn't sing, so he's got a lot of guest vocalists singing on here. So mostly female, a couple of male, and there are a few instrumentals as well. Absolutely beautiful guitar playing from, says I, who can't play guitar and know nothing about guitar, but I'm saying it's beautiful guitar playing, and some lovely kind of folk, sort of again, it's folk genre, and so some sort of, say, different female and male vocalists. Nancy Kerr is one of them, is probably most famous. I'm not so familiar with all of the others. Kirsty Merrin is another who did an actual full album with him recently, so she's also on it. But yeah, beautiful album, in my opinion. Okay, let's change gear again, and we'll go indie rock. And I've shown this already on a Finds video earlier in the year. This is the, if you like, the supergroup Boy Genius, and their album called The Record. And this is, you know, this album grows on every time I play it, and it's a good album for the car. It goes up in my estimation. A really strong album. I don't think I was hugely over the top with it when I first showed it, but as I said, as I play it more, I realise this is a great album. The three women solo performers in their own right, Julianne Baker, Phoebe Bridgers, and Lucy Dacus, are all great artists in their own right, and I think it just really works with them either doing harmony vocals or taking separate lead vocals on the album. It is a great album. Okay, let's now return to the world of the instrumental synth ambient music that I seem to be immersed in the last few years, and a couple of labels that I follow and tend to buy a lot from, if not everything. So first up is the latest release on the Claypipe label, run by Frances, and she does the artwork on all the releases, and beautiful they always are. This is on a smoky green, custom labels, custom inner artwork painted by Frances as well. And this is the latest album by Gilroy Mia, called Gilden Gate, and it's actually, so side one is called Rising, side two is called Falling, and very much it's instrumental, but there's a mood, a more summery, lighter mood on the Rising side one, and a darker mood on the Falling side two. And it's amazing. I mean, I'm not a musician at all, so it always amazes me how, you know, different sequences of notes can create different moods in human beings. And you know, I guess I know if I was a musician, I would know that it's not rocket science. They'll say, oh yeah, you do this chord sequence and you'll create an uplifting mood, and you do this chord sequence or note sequence and you'll create a melancholic mood. You know, it's obvious, it's simples, but obviously to a non-musician, it always amazes me that music can evoke mood, and that's what I love about music, or one of the things I love about music. Okay, another label. So this is the other label, Castles in Space. I've stopped buying everything by Castles in Space, mainly because they put in so much out. I can't keep up, so I'm being a bit more selective. I'm still part of their subscription library, so I pay a monthly amount and I get subscription library releases every now and again drop through the door, or the postman rings the bell more. But they also put quite a lot of stuff out as well to buy, and this is the latest album by the artist known as Warrington Runcorn Newtown Development Plan. I forget the name of the person who this is. Double-barreled surname. Is it Graham Campbell Fox or something like that? I've probably got that wrong. Gordon Campbell Fox, something like that. Apologies. But this is called The Nation's Most Central Location, instrumental. Moods goes, there's some lighter stuff, some darker stuff on this, and I think that certainly depicts, I think it is about, I think, some of the urban sprawl, north-south divide, levelling up or not levelling up, depending on your opinion of how the government's performing on that kind of stuff. So there's some sort of dark and some light and some, I think, some anger in the music in this album. Okay, change of mood and genre. We'll go to jazz next, and these next two albums are albums that I've been turned on to by other VC channels, and so without them I probably wouldn't have bought them. So first up is this, Malcolm Strachan's album Point of No Return. Malcolm Strachan, a Scottish trumpeter. This is a jazz album, all sorts of Latin, bop, funky stuff, enjoyable stuff, absolutely fantastic. This is the best jazz album I've heard for a long time, and this is a new jazz album. So Paul over at X Junkie NL, so over in Holland, in the Netherlands, I did a video recently actually where he kind of did some funky pickups, all new, and I could have bought every one of them. They were all great. I did actually end up buying two of them, but this is the only one that was a 2023 release, and absolutely fantastic, this album. I can't recommend it highly enough. So get onto Bandcamp and buy yourself a copy, or give it a listen anyway. So thanks, Paul, for turning me on to this. And then earlier in the year, Rob Ison showed this album, Lancome. I was familiar with Lancome. I had one or two tracks from Freebie magazine CDs for the last few years, but they never kind of really kind of leapt to my attention. But the description that Rob gave of this being a dark, very dark folk album piqued my interest. I went off to Spotify to sample it, ended up listening to the whole album that evening on Spotify, and bought a copy. And so, yeah, really enjoying it. As I say, it's very dark folk album. And then finally, changing genre to this is sort of neoclassical soundtrack. So this is the soundtrack put out by Hania Rani, who's a Polish pianist, keyboard player, who puts music out on the Gondwana record label, which is a label I also follow, mainly for Matthew Housel's music, but also for Hania Rani's music now as well. So this is put out on a fully recycled card sleeve, but with some foil artwork, inlaid artwork on it. Lovely album. This is a soundtrack, as I said, to a documentary about someone I was not familiar with, a documentary on Alberto Giacometti, a Swiss artist. So Hania Rani provided the music for that documentary. So the album is called On Geocametti, and yeah, it's absolutely beautiful. Such delicate, minimal piano, so delicate and beautiful. So much so that unfortunately the pressing is not brilliant that I've got. I've kind of emailed the label, and I'm hoping to get a replacement. There's a few too many pops and ticks on it for such delicate music to be. It does kind of interfere with your enjoyment of the music, which is unfortunate for such a beautiful album. So I'm hoping I'll get a replacement record that will be better, but can't recommend the music highly enough. Beautiful. And Hania Rani's got a proper album of her own coming out later in the year that I've also pre-ordered, so I tend to kind of buy all of her stuff and all of Matthew Halsel's stuff on the Gondwana label. I don't buy everything else. Have I done this one? I might have missed one. So finally, another CD. I've just seen it there. And this is Darla and the Halls of Antiquity. So this is a sort of fairly deluxe release of a CD. So the reason I was turned on to this is that chap there, Phil Heeks, is off the British Stereo Collective and a number of other artist names he performs under. And this is again a synth album, but it's got a very much an uplifting feel, a more energetic feel. This is a feel-good synth, ambient synth album, and really enjoyable. Darla is the artist name, and Halls of Antiquity. So yeah, I think I've finished now. If I've done that one already, apologies, I've lost my plot. Okay, VC, that's my 10, 11, 12, 13, whatever you want to call it, records of 2023 so far. Cheers, VC, bye.